بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. We'll continue on in our lesson series on the Fiqh of Tahara, and we are still talking about Nawaqid al-Wudu, or nullifiers of wudu. And today we are speaking about the ninth nullifier, inshallah ta'ala, and this is al-qahqaha fi salah, or laughing during the prayer. So just some important points to mention regarding this mas'ala here is that we aren't speaking about laughing nullifying the salah. This is a different topic, and laughing, according to the more correct opinion, does yubtil as-salah, it nullifies the prayer. If somebody were to laugh while praying, their salah is now invalid. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about laughing during the prayer, invalidating the wudu. And we also aren't speaking about laughing outside of salah being a nullifier of wudu. We're only speaking about laughing during the salah being a nullifier of wudu. And we also aren't speaking about somebody who is smiling or about to laugh but doesn't make any noise. This is not what we're speaking about. The qahqaha is actually making the noise of laughter that is emitted from somebody when they are laughing. Okay, so this is what we're speaking about today. Whether this laughter nullifies wudu during the salah. Okay? So before I begin, I'd just like to mention that none of the ulama consider laughter to be a nullifier of wudu outside of salah. Okay? So now the masala. If one were to laugh during the prayer, we know that they would have to restart their prayer because their salah is now invalid, but do they have to make wudu and start over again? This is the question. So the majority of the ulama, they hold the opinion that laughter during the salah does not nullify wudu, and this is the qawl al-rajih, the more correct opinion. We'll just state it off the bat. And the dalil in this is like the previous masail that we took already. And the main dalil that they use, if you guys recall, is that there is a lack of evidence to support that it does in fact nullify the wudu. And there's also a narration in Musannaf ibn Abi Shaybah that Jabir radiallahu anhu, he mentions that if one were to laugh in salah, then he should repeat his salah and not his wudu. Another dalil that they use to support this opinion is, like we just mentioned prior, is that none of the ulama of Islam consider laughter to be a nullifier of wudu outside of the salah. So that's muttafaqun alayh. Everyone agrees upon that. There's ijma' upon that. So how could it be a nullifier inside the salah if it is not a nullifier outside of the salah? Another proof to support this is that talking in salah is prohibited and nullifies the salah, but it doesn't nullify wudu. That being said, if we were to make a qiyas here, or analogy, if one were to purposely speak words other than what is meant to be said during the salah, then we know that his salah would be batil, invalid. However, his wudu would be intact. Likewise, laughing is of similar nature. If one were to laugh inside the salah, his salah would be batil, invalid, but his wudu wouldn't be. The second opinion, and it is a weaker opinion, and that is that held by the Hanafi madhab, that they say that laughing during salah nullifies the wudu. And from the Tabi'een, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, and Sufyan al-Thawri, they also adopted this opinion, and they used a weak hadith that's found in Sunan Dar Al Ula that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were supposedly in salah in Masjid al-Nabawi, and then a blind man was walking through the masjid, and then he fell into some hole, and then they started laughing, supposedly. Okay? And then Rasulullah supposedly told them to go repeat their salah and repeat their wudu. Okay, but this is a weak narration, it is not acceptable. And there's other ahadith that also mention that if someone were to laugh in salah, to redo his wudu as well, and his salah. But every single narration of this nature is all weak. And Imam al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah, he pointed out and explained their weakness. And Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he also said that he adopted that opinion, that it doesn't nullify the wudu, and he said that that's the opinion of the majority of the ulama and the tabi'een, that laughing the salah does not nullify the wudu. And he also attributed this to Ibn Mas'ud, Jabir, and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhum jami'an. Now we move on to the next nullifier, which is nullifier number 10. Just to refresh our memory, we're speaking about nullifiers of Tahara, As-Sughra, and Wudu. The 10th nullifier is Al-Wudu bi-Shak, is doubt. And this is going to, inshallah, will benefit from this, a very important principle in the fiqh of the Sharia. And this opinion, like we spoke about a couple times already, when it comes to some masail that have passed in the nullifiers of wudu, we said that, for example, eating camel meat is a nullifier. This is a mufradat madhab al-Hanbali. It's the only the Hanbali madhab is adopts this opinion. And in this 10th nullifier here, we'll see that this is from Mufradat al-Madhab al-Maliki. That only an opinion within the Maliki madhab states that one having doubt about his wudu invalidates his wudu. Okay? So just to make things clear, if someone were to be very certain positively that they performed wudu, and then afterwards they doubt whether they nullify their wudu or not, which is the case of many people on a daily basis. You make wudu, you left your house, for example, you came to the masjid for Salat al-Dhuhr, you prayed Salat al-Dhuhr, then you had to go do some shopping, you had to go somewhere with your family, then comes around time Salat al-Asr, when you're coming back to the masjid, you're wondering, do I have wudu or did I break my wudu? Okay, so this is what we're speaking about here. Does this shak, this doubt, invalidate the wudu that one has or not? So the ulama, they gave some type of guidelines that we can follow in order to measure the amount of certainty one would have in such regard. If somebody is able to make a qasam, an oath, say, Wallahi, I made wudu, because they're certain about it, then this proves certainty that they have. So if somebody were to say that, yes, well, I can make an oath, I can make a qasam that Wallahi, I made wudu before leaving my house. Then you ask them, can you make a qasam to say that you broke your wudu? They say, no, I cannot, because they're unsure. Okay, this is what we're speaking about, this doubt here. So the first opinion in this regard is that one's wudu remains valid and intact whether he's in salah or outside of salah, if he experiences doubt about his tahara or his wudu. Okay? And this is the opinion, once again, of the majority of the ulama, and it's also the qawl al-rajih, or the correct opinion as well. We'll say that off the bat. And it's one of the two opinions from within the madhab of Imam Malik rahimahullah. And like we said, the opposite opinion is also within the madhab, but this shows that there is a divide amongst the Maliki madhab. So this opinion is also held within the Maliki madhab that it does not nullify wudu. And that opinion was rated by Nafi rahimahullah. And the proof for this, or the dalil that is used, is, like I said, a very important principle, or a qaida fil fiqh, in the usul of the fiqh actually. And the principle is that there's different ways you can word it, but matters, they remain as they were, or al-asl baqa ma kana ala ma kan. So matters are as they were, but this is a little bit more difficult of wording, but a more easier wording, many of us we've heard before, I think we mentioned it in the last halaqah as well, is that al-yaqeen la yazul bil-shak. that certainty is not expelled by doubt. Okay? Remember this rule. Certainty is not expelled by doubt. اليقين لا يزول بالشك. And this is one of the fiqh principles. Okay? And some of the ulama, they stated that this is amongst one of the top 5 qawa'id in the science of fiqh, a jurisprudence in the Sharia. And the ulama of Islam, they gave, when creating foundational principles or qawa'id to follow, they gave them lots of attention and they were very careful in doing so. Because it's very important for someone to be mutamakkin fil ilm, to be very well established in having knowledge, they must have a good understanding and a good memory of al-usul, of qawa'id al-fiqh. Okay? This is very important for a talib ilm, let alone a alim min ulama al-muslimin or a faqih. Okay? But if somebody has this knowledge, they understand al-qawa'id al-fiqhiyya, or they understand foundational principles in the usul of the fiqh, then they're able to derive many masail that they might encounter. They're able to come to conclusions for matters that they experience that they don't have knowledge about prior to, if they understand the qawa'id properly. Okay? So you can take the qa'idah, or the foundational principle, and you can apply it, if you know it and you understand it and you memorize it, then you can apply it to many other masail. Instead of having to memorize 1,000 masail, some ulama, they say that the masail of a fiqh is up to 250,000 masail, depending on how each madhab or alim, they divided them up. But instead of memorizing 250 masail and what the aqwal are of the ulama, what you can do is you can learn and understand the qa'idah, or the foundational principle, which caused the ulama to reach that. And some ulama, they mentioned this. One of the mashayikh, he says, Allah yahfadhu wa barak fi, he says that these qawa'id of al-fiqh are like comparing a chef that's using a recipe. The chef being an example of the shaykh of the talib ilm, and the recipe being the qa'idah fiqhiyya. Okay, the chef has to have experience, knowledge, and know how to use the recipe in order to make a proper dish. Likewise, the alim or the talib al-ilm or the faqih, they have to have proper understanding and application of the qawa'id of al-fiqh, so they can apply them properly and appropriately to the masail that they encounter. And just a side note, it's very important for one who is focused on studying ilm of Islam to learn qawa'id, to learn the foundational principles. And the reason for that is, lots of times people, especially in this day and age, in the last, within the last century, there was a shift overall from people following madahib classically to people just following al-dalil, or the fiqh al-dalil, or salafi, whatever you want to call it, but they only want to follow the dalil in the masail, and they try to avoid following madahib. Okay, this is a big discussion whether this is right or wrong, but what we will say for sure is that if somebody is going to apply this and they are just doing it on a whim, then they'll fall into contradiction. Okay? If somebody is abiding by a madhab, what they are doing essentially is abiding by a set of qawa'id, or rules. And that way, if they abide by a madhab, they don't fall into contradiction, because they are following a set of foundational principles which the madhab have set out, which they derive their opinions with. But if somebody wants to follow only the dalil, which is something that's praiseworthy for somebody who is a knowledge seeker, it's great, but they have to understand the foundational principles. Otherwise, they'll fall into contradiction. They might adopt one opinion according to what they perceive the dalil to be in one mas'ala, and then they adopt another opinion in another mas'ala according to what they perceive the dalil to be. But they don't know that each of the masail that they adopted according to the qawa'id of the madhab who stated those opinions are contradictory. Okay, so this can easily expose one for being a jahil or being someone who's ignorant or lacking knowledge. Okay, in these kind of instances, we can see that. Wallahu a'lam. And some of the ulama, they even have books that are focusing on the qawa'id of the fiqh, and one can refer back to that, inshallah, for more knowledge on that. But let's get into the actual topic, which is the naqd of al-wudu, which is shak. So we said that certainty is not removed by doubt. Certainty is not expelled by doubt. And this principle, like I said, is considered by some of the ulama to be in the top 5 qawa'id in the Sharia. And that's because this principle is applied to many numerous masail. That's not just part of nawaqid al-wudu, but in many fields in the Sharia. Hatta fil mu'amalat, fil ibadat wal mu'amalat. In acts of worships and dealings, social dealings, these rules are applicable. Okay, this rule rather is applicable. In ibadat, we can see it. For example, if somebody, they have doubt, like we're taking today right now, they have doubt about nullifying their wudu, or somebody having doubt about how much raka'at that he's prayed, or somebody having doubt about whether the place on the floor is najis or tahir, okay, or somebody having doubt whether the najasa got on their thawb, and so on. And in mu'amalat, some examples of it would be somebody having doubt when it comes to divorce. Did he divorce his wife or not? Or freeing a slave? Or in giving a testimony? Or in crimes and other things that are similar in nature. So an example of a mu'amalat, just so we can explain further. If someone, for example, were to lend money, okay? A brother loaned money, Brother Muhammad loaned money from Brother Umar. And Brother Muhammad's very certain he loaned the money. He asked him for $1,000. And he can make a qasam that he asked him for $1,000. So it's certain that he took the money from him, and it's also certain that he owes the money back to him. And you say, okay, akhi, can you also make a qasam that you paid back the money? He's having doubt. I think I paid him back. I tell him, can you make a qasam that you paid him the money back? If he says no, then the asl is what remains, that he owes him the money, and simply having doubt that he may have paid him doesn't expel the certainty that he owes him the money. Is that clear? That's clear? Okay. Imam As-Suyuti rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that this principle applies to all sections of the fiqh and applies to nearly 75% of the fiqh masail or more. And these principles, brothers and sisters, they are extracted from adillah from the Quran and the Sunnah. Like for example, this principle here, it's backed by the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يَتَّبِعُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ إِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. Most follow assumptions, and assumptions do not replace the truth. Okay? And إِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. They follow mere assumptions, and guesses or assumptions do not substitute the truth. So these ayat, they show or they support this qaida in the fiqh. And proof for it in the hadith that we covered, I believe, in the past as well, is the hadith of Abbad ibn Tamim and his uncle, and the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhum jami'an, where he says that one should cease or end his salah if he doubts, or one shouldn't cease or end their salah if they doubt passing wind until they hear a sound or detect a smell. We covered this hadith multiple times. So these qawa'id, just to make a statement here, they are supported by ayat and ahadith and ijma' of the ulama. Okay? So a shak or doubt, everything in doubt is considered as if it doesn't exist and as if it's not there. So how do we deal with doubt? If somebody has doubt about something, we treat it as if it is nothing. Doubt doesn't benefit and doubt doesn't leave us with anything that we can follow. Okay? Yaqeen, rather certainty. In hadath, if somebody is certain they nullified their wudu, then the person has nullified their wudu. Okay? But doubts do not affect their wudu. So if somebody is unable to make a qasam that they nullified their wudu, then the wudu remains intact and it is still valid and they can make their salah in such a state. Now that's the more correct opinion, and I'm very sure everyone is familiar with this mas'ala already, but it's good to review. And the second opinion, which we stated earlier on, is an opinion.
What if one is certain, right, that they have wudu, but they didn't have wudu, and then are they like?
If they are certain they made wudu, but then they're doubtful if they broke it, and then in reality they actually broke it, then they're muhasabeen according to what they know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold them accountable according to what they know. If somebody knows they don't have wudu and they're praying, then they're in big trouble. Okay, if the ulama, they have different opinions on what should be done with the person and whatnot, and how severe it is of a sin. But if somebody genuinely, he's certain he had wudu, and then he's doubtful if he broke it, so he goes by the asl, which is certainty, and it turns out that in reality he did in fact nullify his wudu, then inshallah it's overlooked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam رفعت عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وكما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم that the Ummah has been alleviated of mistake and forgetfulness.
But when it comes to that factor, like, should somebody take it that lightly, or should they try their best to confirm that they didn't break their wudu?
Well, somebody.
Steps, or maybe
what kind of steps are you going to take? You're going to try to remember, try to backtrack in your memory as you can think about it, and that's like almost the most of the extent of what we can do. Or like in the hadith, if you detect a smell or you hear a sound, okay, if somebody knows, oh yeah, I heard something or I smelled something, then, and they have doubt and they smell something, then that provides them with certainty. But if somebody doesn't remember hearing anything or smelling anything, and they don't know if they had passed wind or not, they can try to recall, and that's as much as they can do. If they cannot recall, then the asl is what remains, is that their tahara is intact. Just a side note though, now that we mention it, let's say somebody, they woke up in the morning, for example, then they left their house, went to work, it came time for salah. And now they're uncertain if they have wudu. But they're uncertain if they made wudu to begin with. Okay? Well, what do they follow? Do they follow that they have wudu, or that their wudu is invalid?
Well, if they're uncertain that they didn't have wudu, but they say that again.
The person they leave, so the first scenario was somebody, they're certain they make wudu when they left their house. And then after, when it comes time for salah, they don't remember if they nullified it or not. We said the asl is what remains. So the asl is that they have wudu, they're certain about that. I'll just say it because it might be confusing to pose it in the form of a question. If somebody were to leave their house afterwards, and now they are doubtful if they have wudu, they're doubtful if they nullified their wudu, but they're doubtful even if they made wudu to begin with. Okay? So what's certain is that they never made wudu. The asl is that they never made wudu because they cannot even make a qasam that they made wudu before leaving the house. In such a case, the asl is what? Adam al-Tahara. That there's no wudu intact. So now this type of doubt comes after. They're doubting something that the basis of it is doubtful to begin with. Okay, is that clear? Does that make sense, brother? طيب. So some of the Malikiya, in one of the two opinions that they hold in the madhab, and we mentioned it's related by Nafi', or we mentioned rather, that the first opinion was related by Nafi', but another opinion in the Maliki madhab, they state that if somebody doubts his wudu, then his wudu is nullified. He has to make wudu before he prays. Okay? And this is, I'll just say, just so it doesn't create confusion, this is without a doubt the weaker opinion. Okay? And the Maliki, some of them, they branched off of that even further, and they said that it's only if it's outside of Salah. Meaning that if somebody were to have doubt about his wudu, is coming to the masjid, he knows biyaqeen that he made wudu before leaving the house. Now it's coming time for Salah, Iqam is about to happen, and he's doubtful if he nullified his wudu or not. According to them, because he still never entered the Salah, in this opinion from within the Maliki opinion, okay, because he hasn't entered into Salah yet, then yes, his wudu is invalid, he must go make wudu before he prays. But then they say that if it's within Salah, then the doubt doesn't affect his wudu. And that's taken from the hadith that we just mentioned, that if somebody detects, he shouldn't leave his Salah until he detects a smell or a sound. Okay, this is what they base it off of. But without a doubt, the purpose of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that is for one to get some type of certainty. It's not about whether it's if he heard something or he never heard something in or out of the Salah, it makes a difference. If something's applicable outside of the Salah, then it's the same thing inside of the Salah and vice versa. Okay? And their rationale in this is that because wudu is from shurut min, it's a shart min shurut as-salah, it's a condition of the prayer, that doubts in such a condition are effective and they nullify it. Okay, this is what they base it off of, this rationale. That they're having doubt in one of the shurut of the salah, so that being said, that shart is not complete due to that doubt. And they said that doubts are effective in what's a condition to performing an obligation towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a ibadah that's owed to Allah. And so they said that it's your duty to perform all the ibadat and the conditions and fulfill them properly, and amongst those is Tahara. And they say that doubt would affect those conditions. However, they do say that if it's in an obligation towards something else, okay, like you owe somebody money, for example, we give like in the muamalat, then they say that the doubt doesn't affect it. So they agree with the other ulama and the other masail, in the muamalat or in divorce or owing money or whatever the case is, they agree with the ulama. They say that doubt doesn't affect certainty. But they specifically state that, in the Maliki madhab in this opinion, that doubt would affect certainty only when it comes to al-wudu for the salah. So, like we said, the qawl al-rajih in this is the first opinion, that doubt doesn't affect the tahara. And like we said, and we'll state it once again, is that this principle is very important for everybody to know and to memorize, that al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak, that certainty is not expelled by doubt. Always remember this, brothers and sisters, and you can apply it in your daily life for many things. And it provides comfort knowing this qaida here. And with this I think we'll conclude so we don't go on too long. So jazakumullahu khairan, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.